In the last episode of Paper Hats, we did what seemed like the impossible and put all of our energy, including a 24-hour stream, into finishing the Imperial City. And while no base can truly be finished, I feel like we left it in a good place to say it's done. And in this episode, it's finally time to say farewell to the Imperial City and move on to a promise that I made in the very first episode. And I don't think it's very fair just to leave the Imperial City this way. I think we should definitely show it off one last time. If you're new here and you haven't seen the process of this base being built, I definitely recommend going back and watching that. But in case you haven't, here it is. And there you have it, everyone. One of the biggest builds I've ever done in my life. And now it's time to build one last thing on Paper Hats Season 4. Let's head to Spawn. I'll tell you all about it. Every time I fly through Spawn, I just love looking at everything. Everybody did such a great job building this season. And walking along the horse track here, it just makes me think of everything we've done this season. Built an absolutely massive base, an incredible nether hub, which included removing 100,000 bedrock, not something I've ever done before. I also built my first mob switch ever. I had a hand in the Christmas district. I built the spawn portal build. There's just so much we did this season, and there's definitely one thing we need to do. If you guys are longtime viewers, you may recognize this place. It's the few chests I lived out of at Spawn when we first started the season, and it doesn't look like much. It's kind of an eyesore, to be honest. It looks like a chest monster, which how I made a starter base look like a chest monster is beyond me, but it happened. It's time to do something about it, so let's build one last thing of this season. Well, we've been building on this a while. I think we're definitely getting somewhere. It sure has an interesting shape. I think we are lacking a little bit of color, though. So we got a little more work to do. Not to mention, we actually have to terraform the path into the ground, so it looks nice. This is really coming together. I didn't want too much color, and I wanted to keep the pink here because the rest of Spawn is pink, so it definitely fits in. I'm not really sure what you call this style of house. I was just sort of freehanding stuff, and I like the way it turned out. The main entrance is actually going to be this deck here, and that is the next thing we have to tackle. We've got the outside. We just need to do the inside now. So there's a lot of land clearing in here. We've got to clean up some of these walls. Don't really have a plan, but we're going with the flow, and it's working so far. So let's do some more work. This starter house is absolute perfection, and there's only one thing left to do. This really wouldn't be a proper starter base without some chests laying around, with all my loot that I would have left behind when we left Spawn. You know, most of us are guilty of that. You know, you play at Spawn, you have a nice starter house. We go off and make our main base, and then we tell ourselves we're going to move absolutely everything, but you know, a lot does stay behind at your starter base, and it just sort of stays there. So in order to make this authentic, we've got to put some junk in the basement here. In my opinion, this turned out so perfect. This is a little storage, something that I would definitely make day one. It's kind of organized, but also not. I've sort of got stones, woods, dirt, and then the rest are categorized into kind of what would make sense for me, but not really. Yeah, this is totally the thing I would build on day one. I love how this turned out. And I realize I rushed through this a little bit. We didn't spend a ton of time building it, but it turned out really great. This is totally something I would build on day one and leave here. And for clarity, the original intention was to leave those chest monsters here. I didn't really want to spend time building anything starter because I had such a big base this season. But after seeing what everybody created at Spawn, it's just so beautiful over here. I did feel a little left out, so I figured, why not make my last episode of the season building my starter house finally? So I think we did that. But I didn't want to spend the entire video building on this starter base. I wanted to get this done and then have the chance to show off some of my favorite builds this season on Paper Hats. In reality, it would take too much time for me to go around and make an individual clip for every single build on the server. So these are the ones that come to mind. These are some of my favorites, so I hope you enjoy. And before we log out of Paper Hats Season 4 for the very, very final time, I need to do one thing for you guys. It wouldn't be right to leave without doing this. I need to leave you guys my inventory and my ender chest. And there you guys are, all my stuff in these two chests right next to the lectern for my very first 24-hour stream. So much history in the Paper Hats Season 4 world, Everbloom. I'm going to miss it so much. But you know what? The world download is going to be available soon, so you can download it for yourself and experience it. And of course, I'll always have it too, to come back to it and see what I've done. Guys, thank you so much for supporting everyone on Paper Hats over the last year and a half. I think it was a little bit more. I really hope to see all of you for Season 5. We've got a lot of cool plans for that so far. So guys, thanks so much again for watching. I will see you next time for Paper Hats Season 5. I'm so excited.